To make these little cards, we got these beautiful little stamps in the shop. So what I did, I've stamped them on our special paper, not typing paper, was it'll suck up. I've taken A4 and folded it in half, and I did the stamps on this. So what I'm using in the first one is I'm using distress ink. So what I do is I put it on my stamp block. Then I make nice little dark outlines. Then I take my water, you can take a water pen, you can take a fantastic tool, or you can use a little brush. I've got a little brush pen with a little water in the back. If you don't have that, you can put a little water on the edge of your block, and then once you want to blend them, you pick up a little bit of water and actually you just paint to the inside of a little flower, and it's going to give you a more blend. If you want a bit darker, you go on with an undiluted solution. This is actually quite a nice method of coloring in, and as I said, this paper is special, so it doesn't suck it up, it just blends nicely. So as you can see, I'm using the dark on the edges, and I go lighter, I just stamp it a little bit more. One thing, if you use a little brush or a fantastic tool or this with the paint, with the water brush, I clean it a little wet one every time when I change color. If you use a fantastic tool, every time you use a different color, you use a different tool. When you finish, you wash them. I don't dip them in the water to wash them. I just squish the front of the points a little bit to make them clean. Otherwise I suck up the water right in them, and they actually take a long time to dry. They will still leave a little bit of coloring on the front of the nib, but that, when it's dry, it won't actually blend with your next color. With this brush, it's got a little water in the back. If you have a paint brush, you actually make sure you actually clean it well before you change color again. So all you do is you blend. You can see you go dark on the outside, light on the inside, use a little bit of water. I've speed these up quite fast because I mean it takes a long time to color in. It is great fun, but I think with nothing no boring. It was like watch paint dry if you do it one on one. So I sped them up quite a bit. So now I've cleaned my block, and I'm now going to use the green to give me a bit of green. So I'll put it quite dark, I color it in, pick it up, and then I go with a bit of water and I blend them down a little bit. If you can look close in the end of this, you can see that the leaves even has got different colors. While I color in these stamp pads come with a nice color picture in the front of the stamp. Now I put a bit of light green around that thing there. Okay, so what I do is I put that in the front to show you which actually is the details of the stamp show up in the coloring. So when you color your thing, and if you're not sure is that a leaf or is that a flower or something else, it gives you a little sample of what the colors got to be where. Otherwise you sometimes miss your little details. Now I've colored the hair in. What I did is I did it all light. Even on the outside where it's just little string, look like little pieces of strippies, I even did that. And then I go with a brush over them to make them look thin. And again, the end that I did is I colored the dragon. And I made light blend, and then I made dark little dots to the dragon's little bodies. You mustn't make them too wet because your dots is going to actually sort of look the same. Now that's all done. What I also done, the next thing I colored in with was coloring pencils. Now these are special watercolor pencils. They are nice to use. I've had mine for years. They last, they're expensive, but they last forever. I again use my water brush. So what I do with a pencil, I color in quite dark around the rose. Then I take the water brush and I actually blend it. Now you can color in with normal coloring pencils. There's only one thing, it doesn't blend. These are made to blend with water. I said I've had mine for years, and I think I've only sharpened them once or twice. I think I've got them for about 15 years already. And if you look at them there, you can see they're as good as new as when I had them in the beginning. So they're worth their money. They last a long time. I said again, you can use a fantastic tool or a brush, but I like my water brush. prima. Doesn't matter which water brush you use, it's a nice little nib. You get thin nibs and thick nibs, and are actually all lovely to have. Now I use the green. As I said, I coloured it in again, quite dark. As you can see, dark on the outside. I mean, I really coloured in dark. Then I take the pencil and the ink, sorry, my apologies, and I take the water brush and I blend it. So once I've done all this, I've actually let it dry a little bit, and I did little green dots too, and I just put a little nippy of water on the top of them to show the detail on that one. Now once the hair I sort of colour in all over, and when that has all been blended, I've used my little darker lines with my ink pen, with the pencil, to give you the light and the dark in the hair. But so I blend it nicely with a bit of water. You can see the water brush, the minute you blend it with the water, it sort of blends in. It's just not like just colouring. So now I go give some darker, and I did the eyes in blue. Remember, every time I use that, I've cleaned my nib of my pen, so it doesn't going to actually contaminate where I'm colouring in. I even did the title. As you can see, I've sort of just coloured it in. You can see it just picks up the colour once you blend them. Now the next thing I did, I used all-purpose ink. All-purpose ink are a beautiful medium to use. They're quite actually easy to use. I did the little roses all with this colour. Yeah, I use a fantastic tool. As you can see, the fantastic tool all lying there ready. I've used a pipette to put a bit on my block. Now I've changed now to my little brush, because what I've done is I add some gold here to the other colour, to just pick up, to make it brighter, and I just blend it with a water pen after I pick it up. There I pick the gold up with a water pen. Now I use a bit of red on there, so I use a pipette, tiny bit, a little bit of much on her lips, but it is also not the end of the world. Then I made some different colour roses again. You can see go from light to dark, and you pick up a little bit of water and you actually blend it. It's actually quite a nice way to colour in with the pipette. I did a bit of blend of the colours there. Now the last thing I did is I used the green for the leaves, which actually gives you quite, just pop your flowers, which is actually quite a nice way of actually just sort of make it stand out. This one I did sideways on a card just to make it look a little bit different. See in the side there, I'm picking up a little water for the leaves, the colour. Now for her hair, I actually, I'm still colouring roses, as you blend them. But for her hair, I didn't have brown, so what I actually used, I've actually used a gold. I mean, in this thing there was a stamp with little stars. I just lightly put it in my all-purpose ink and I stamped with it. I used a blue all-purpose ink here for my dragons, and I just a little bit darker on their bodies. Now then I used this colour here was her lips, and I thinned it out so thin because you do not want to have it too dark for her cheeks. So I put a little bit, and I actually use my finger to blend it too with a little water brush, so she gets a little blusher on her cheeks there. It's actually quite pretty. And I need to add a little bit of colour to my dragons, but remember that was not dry. So now I clean my whole block off. Now I'm going to go back, and I'm going to now use the white. I use actually a white, which is sort of the metallic for hair. So this, I didn't blend dark and light, I just use it fairly undiluted, so it actually shows up when you look at it. I also did the dragon's wings like this to make them just stand out. You can see there it's got a bit of color, so it is actually quite pretty. Now what I did is I did a blending down, I mixed it, and you blend them lower. My blending is not always that brilliant, but just to give a bit of look around your dolly. So I went right around. You can see it goes light. The more water you add, the lighter it goes. This is quite a nice method. I find out I put a little bit. Sometimes I will use a tiny bit. I will put my thing in a little lid with a bit of color instead of putting it on the blocky. Now I use a bit of gold and I use brush, and I actually made little splattered circles just to finish it off and give you a little bit of detail in the background, and it actually gives you quite a nice little look. Now for this was the one I did with the distress ink. What I've done is I've actually taken a glitter pen and I actually color the edge in with a glitter pen. Now glitter pens stay wet for a second, so what I've done is I have a finger and I actually rub it down, so you actually do a tiny bit of blending with your glitter pen, and it just gives it a nice little look. It just pops it up. You can also color in your glitter pens, but you're not going to do the blending with them like you did with the other methods. This just gives a bit more detail, the glitter pen. See what I do, you see immediately it picks up a little bit more color. It just a bit, and I just give it a rub with a finger while the glitter pen take a couple of seconds to dry. You can see there it just brings the color out. It just makes such a difference. You can see there it gives you a little bit of different color, and it's actually quite fun to use. And I hope you guys enjoy your stamps, enjoy your coloring in, have fun.